Hey kids, it's back to school time, and back to school time always seems to somehow mean that there's this big influx of, hey, I got to get my stuff together for my small business. So I know I'm going live on my profile this time as opposed to my business page, but I have a lot of clients who are my Facebook friends, and I have a lot of friends who have their own websites or blogs, or, maybe they sell on Etsy or something like that. And I feel like this is a good sort of primer because we're talking about your website, and your website is the online version of your brick and mortar store, and it should be the basis of all of your online marketing activities. So I'm going to talk some about how to evaluate if your website is working for you, because step one is to get a website, and all customers just expect businesses of all sizes to have their own website at this time. But step two is figuring out if that website is working for you, because simply having a website could mean nothing if it's old, if it's not mobile friendly, if it's not optimized for search. There's all sorts of things. So I really enjoy doing website audits, and blog audits and audits for online stores are things that I've been doing for years. My big presentation that I had in June was for a dealer conference where I was training them for 3 hours on how to go ahead and audit their websites. So this is not going to be 3 hours long, but I do wanted to give you some basic information so that, those of you who do manage your own websites, you can, start giving it a once over and maybe dig a little bit deeper into your analytics and look at some things like that. So first, you do want to make sure you have some kind of website analytics set up for your site. I really like Google Analytics because it's considered the most accurate and just a sort of like comprehensive tool out there. It's completely free to use. It could potentially be overwhelming because there's just so much data that's in there, but it doesn't have to be. You can make it more simple to look at. If you're on something like WordPress, even some other popular website platforms, they might have some other kind of built-in analytics. On WordPress, I know Jetpack is something that people use a lot. But the point is, if in the real world, you can see people who walk through your front door. So you have a sense of how many people are actually coming to visit your place of business. But without analytics on your website, you really have no idea how many people are coming to your website or your blog or your online store without something like Google Analytics to go ahead and show you. Additionally, Google Analytics can show you things like where your visitors are coming from, the most popular pages, things like that. After you set up Google Analytics, you do want to go ahead and set up and then connect your analytics to your Webmaster Tools account. There's a search console in there, and there's so much more goodness that you can find through your search console, including like where the average ranking is for pages or popular keyword phrases that drive traffic to your site. Because obviously, ideally, if you're selling, you don't want to only appeal to people who already know who you are. You want to make sure that you optimize your site for search. So that would be the next point, actually. SEO, search engine optimization, does feel daunting for a lot of people. It's really not as complicated as it seems, and Google has made lots of changes where it really has become more of a humanized kind of process. Obviously, you still need to know the tenets of SEO, and you need to know where to put that stuff in on your website or your blog or your online store, but it's not nearly as complicated of a process, and it's better just to be straightforward and, like I said, more human and contextual, and talk like a human and write like a human and not be robotic and not try to trick Google. Google's smart, and it keeps getting smarter. So a lot of the old tactics that you might have heard of years ago have not been good to use for several years now. So the thinking about your optimization is going to be sort of like that next step, because like I said, you want to get your website in a good place, especially if you're then going to try to drive traffic to it, because all of that marketing, all your social media and your advertising, what good is it doing for you if once people come back to your website isn't converting for you? So the next thing is you do have to make sure your website is mobile responsive. A lot of sites are mobile responsive out of the box now, so to speak. If not, there are ways, like if you are on WordPress, you can, ooh, I see some love that I'm getting. All of a sudden I had a bunch of faces on my screen. You can sort of try to make it more mobile friendly with a plugin, like if you're on WordPress. But mobile is not just phones, it's also tablets, and mobile use is only going up. And if you do have Google Analytics installed, you can see what percentage of your total visits are on mobile. And mobile is something that Google looks at too, so it can actually hurt your rankings in organic search if your site is not mobile friendly. So it's also important for that reason. Otherwise, the general look and feel, does your site look like it was built in 1992? Because if it does, other people see that and it's reflecting poorly on you. The thing with the online world and with your online marketing is you can't control how someone first comes in contact with your brand. It's very different than in the offline world, because if you have one store location or restaurant or what have you, you can make sure that your sign is always lit, and you can Windex the glass, and you can mop the floor, and you can make sure everything is merchandised really well. So you have complete control over that, and you know what people are seeing. In the online world, you don't know if someone's finding your website and they think it looks like it's completely outdated, or they're finding some Twitter account that's been dormant for 9 months, or your blog that you were so gung-ho about but you haven't written for the last 2 years. All of those things end up giving an impression about your brand and how well you manage your business. So you do need to take these kinds of things into consideration, because the looks of things do impact that impression that someone has of your business. Next, I would say, things like the colors you're using, the fonts you're using. You don't want to be using too many of either. You want to make sure the text that people are reading is very easy on the eyes. You shouldn't be having more than 2, maybe 3 fonts on your site. If you have like 7 or 10, no, it looks like a child did it. So please go back and fix that. On your pages, do you have calls to action? They don't necessarily all have to be super elaborate, like, you don't have to necessarily have a bunch of landing pages that are sales pages and driving the sale all the time. But if people are reading about a service that you offer, or there's a product they want to buy, there needs to be some way for them to take action on, either getting more information about that service, or maybe filling out a short contact form because they are interested and they want to get started, or perhaps they just want to sign up straight away and purchase whatever it is that you're selling. So you need to make sure that you have calls to action throughout your site and your online store. Lastly, make sure everything is working. You would be amazed at how many sites I go to, and there's like social links that are either on the website that were never linked up to the account. So like, say they have the icons for Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube, but they were never connected, or they changed their username. And so if you do click it, it goes to a dead link. Their contact form won't submit. All websites, usually most websites can kind of pretty much take care of themselves. You do have to click to run updates from time to time, but occasionally things do break. So you do need to periodically go through your website and test out your contact forms, and test out your links, and make sure if you have any sort of other plugins, your social feeds, anything that you're adding to your site, like maybe you have it so that all your new Instagram photos come up, you got to do a periodic once over to make sure that those things are still fully operational. So your website, to clean up your website really is a pretty comprehensive task. Obviously, if you ever need my help, I'm here for you. But, be honest with yourself about how it looks. Test out some things to make sure it's working. Maybe bring in a friend even to say, hey, can you read this description that I wrote on this page? Does it make sense to you as an outsider? That's one of the challenges when you own your own business. You are the center of your business. And so when you're writing this copy or reading the copy that's on your website, it might make perfect sense to you and you don't feel that there's any additional explanation needed. but that doesn't mean for somebody who's unfamiliar with your business and what you do that there's enough there, or that the depth of the content is there to really explain to them the value of what you do and, you know, why it is that you're so awesome at doing what you're doing. So, and then I guess the last point, just to reiterate, you know, you got to figure out what's going on with your site in terms of your analytics and your Google Webmaster Tools, and you know, your SEO, mobile responsive, those kinds of things. The stuff that maybe isn't so fun to do and isn't so obvious, but that stuff is really kind of part of a good foundation of a site. So if you have any questions, let me know. If not, you guys have a good rest of your day.